Hey everyone, Doug here. Today we're going to take a look at budgets. Namely, what is a budget, why is it so useful, and how do we build one using Google Sheets? Stick around toward the end of the video. I'm going to do a full tutorial in Google Sheets on how to build this exact budget that you see on the screen right now. Without further ado, let's jump into it. Alright, let's start from the very basics. What exactly is a budget? A budget is simply a plan for your money. Think of it like a roadmap for how you're going to allocate your income across your various needs, your wants, and your savings and investment goals. Using a budget will help you break down your income, categorize your expenses, and see where your money is going. Whether you have a lot of money right now or just a little, a budget is key to give you full clarity and control on how you spend your money. When some people think about a budget, they look at it as a punishment or a tool to prevent you from spending your money on the things that you want. But realistically, it's all about just being intentional with how you're spending your money so that your wants don't overtake your needs and you still have some money left over at the end of every month to put toward whatever goal you want, whether that's an emergency fund, your savings account, investments, taking a vacation, whatever the case is. So that starts to give us an idea of what a budget is and why it might be important. But to further cement the point, let's go through 3 examples of why a budget is so critical for your financial health. 1. Control your spending. Without a plan, it's easy to let small expenses add up. You know, those impulse buys at the store, grabbing takeout when you didn't plan for it, or splurging on that cool new gadget. And again, the budget isn't meant to make it so that you can't buy any of these things. You should reward yourself. What a budget does, it allows you to factor that spending into your overall financial health and make sure you're not overspending in categories when you don't have the money to do so. 2. Save for the future. Whether you're building an emergency fund, saving for a vacation, or planning for retirement, a budget lets you set aside money specifically for these goals. Without a budget, saving can feel random or impossible. But when you allocate part of your income to savings every month, it becomes a habit. And over time, you build that financial cushion that you need in order to achieve whatever financial goal you have your sights set on. 3. Financial clarity. When you don't know where your money's going, or if you'll even have enough to cover your bills, it's incredibly stressful. A budget lets you feel more secure because you know exactly how much you can spend, where you're allocating your money, and if you need to make any adjustments month to month. So now that we know what a budget is and why it's so important, the last thing I want to cover before we jump into the tutorial here is the strategy that we're going to use for this budget build. And that strategy is the 50-30-20 rule. And all that this means is that we're going to allocate 50% of our income toward needs. These are things you absolutely need to live, like housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, insurance, stuff like that. The 30% is for your wants. And your wants are things that you don't need to live, but they make life more enjoyable. This is stuff like, going out to eat, going to the movies, purchasing a gadget, whatever the case is. These are things you want. And the 20% is to go towards savings and or debt repayment. So without further ado, let's jump into Google Sheets and we're going to build out a budget together. I promise to make it very simple, very easy. There aren't going to be a ton of formulas at play here. This is really just a basic budget to get you started. So what we have here is a new Google Sheets document. If you go to sheets.google.com, you can set up one there and follow along with the rest of the tutorial. To start off with, let's go ahead and do a little bit of layout work just to make sure that this is legible going forward. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to type in January. This will be a monthly budget. We'll merge these cells, center it, increase the text to 20. Let's make it bold as well. Next, let's go ahead and enter in our income, and then we'll do expenses as well. For income, we're going to do columns A and B. We'll merge these, center it, make it bold. Let's go ahead and give this a light green to background. And we're going to do effectively the same thing for our expenses. So columns D through F, we're going to merge, center, bold, and we'll make this red. Underneath each of these, go ahead and grab rows 4 through 20, and we'll go ahead and make this a light green. Same thing for expenses, we'll make this a light red. Next, right-click on the middle column for expenses, scroll down if you need to, click on drop-down, and we're going to enter in a couple options. The first will be needs, the second will be wants, and the third, we will put savings. Color code these if you feel like it. You don't have to do this part, but I find that it keeps it somewhat legible. So we'll just do some reds for needs and wants and green for savings. Hit done. Grab this little blue circle and drag that down all the way down the middle column there. What this will allow us to do is as we start putting expenses in, we can categorize them by the needs, wants, or savings according to the 50-30-20 rule. Next, grab the rightmost column for each section and change it to format as currency. So we'll do that for income. We'll do that for expenses. And then we're good to go to the next section, which will be a total income, a total expenses, and then maybe a leftover section here as well. Let's color code these to match our income and expenses. So we'll do a light green here, a light red here, and maybe just a, I don't know, a light gray for leftover. Go ahead and change these to currency as well. Next, we're going to add some metrics in here to track how we're doing according to the 50-30-20 rule. So go ahead and type in goals, grab these 3 columns, and like we did before, we're going to merge these. We're going to center our text and make it bold. Underneath goals, we're going to have needs, wants, and savings. This middle column will be percentages, and the right column here will be currency. For this section, we can simply type in 50, 30, and 20%. Let's grab this whole section here, and we're going to give this a background color, maybe a light yellow. And we're going to do effectively the same thing right below it. So we're going to type in actual. We're going to merge, center, bold. This will have needs, it'll have wants, and it'll have savings. And just like before, the middle column will be percentages. The rightmost column will be currency, and then we'll give this a background color as well of light yellow. We're going to input a couple formulas here that are relatively straightforward, but the first one we're just going to type in equals, and then we're going to do our total income cell multiplied by our percentage of 50%. Go ahead and hit enter on that, and we're going to do the same thing for our wants and savings. So equals total income multiplied by 30% for the wants, hit enter. And I don't typically trust autofill, so we're just going to do this manually. We're going to do equals total income multiplied by the percentage. Perfect. The next formulas we're going to cover are for total income, expenses, and our leftover amount. So for income, we're going to do an equals. We're going to do a sum, hit tab there, and we're going to click and drag out the rightmost column under income and hit enter. We're going to do the same thing for expenses. And our leftover amount is simply going to be, well, it's autofilling it for us here, but it's going to be our total income minus our total expenses. That actually looks good to me, so I'll go ahead and use that example. And what this will do, if we type in $1,000 of income, we can see that it updates for our total income statement and our leftovers, right? Because we have no expenses yet. So right now we have $1,000 of income and $1,000 is left over. More importantly, under goals, it'll tell us what dollar amount we should be contributing toward each one of these categories. So for example, out of $1,000, 50% of that, or $500, should go to needs, 300 should go to wants, and 200 should go to savings. The next formulas we're going to enter in here are going to be for the actual field in the budget. So for this, we're going to do an equals, a sum if, similar to the sum, but this is going to take a conditional sum across a range. And what this means, well, it's easier to just show you. So type in equals sum if, hit tab, and what we're going to do is click on the E column. We're going to do a comma, and then in quotation marks, we're going to type in needs. We're going to do another comma, and then we're going to click on the F column and go ahead and hit enter there. And we're going to do the same thing. And it's actually easier to just copy paste this guy and paste it into the following two. So for wants, we're going to click on this cell and we're going to update this from needs to wants. Similarly for savings, we're going to update this from needs to savings. For the percentages under actual, we're going to do a much easier statement here. It's simply going to be an equals. You're going to click on the currency number here, and you're going to divide it by your total income. And you'll see this goes to 0% for now, but it'll update once we get all of this taken care of. So again, we're going to do an equals the currency amount divided by total income. And one more time, currency amount divided by total income. And with that, our budget is actually set up. So if we come over here to income, we can say that we got a paycheck, let's say for $1,500. And like before, we see this update, our total income, our leftover, and then it attributes all of the money to each goal, right? So $750 toward needs, $450 for wants, $300 for savings. Let's punch in a couple expenses here. Let's do rent. And this is definitely a need. So maybe we'll do $500 here. We'll do a phone bill, an internet bill. Let's say we went out to eat one day. We also have Disney Plus, and then we're going to contribute a little bit towards savings as well. So let's categorize these. We definitely need a phone. We definitely need the internet. We dined out, which is not a need, it's a want. Disney Plus is definitely a want, and savings will be categorized under savings. And I'm just going to put in a couple arbitrary values. So we'll say that these are each 50. We went out to a nicer place. It was $40 for some dinner. Disney Plus, we'll say it's $15. And we contributed $200 toward our savings account or our emergency fund. And what's important here is that we're looking at the actual section now. So we've contributed $600 toward this, which is 40%. Our wants are at $55, which is 3.6%. And savings are $200 at 13.3%. And the reason this doesn't equal 100% is because we have this leftover amount sitting up here for our income versus expenses. So for example, if we did some investments where we did $645, our leftover goes to 0 because we've allocated all of our money. And now when we click on all of these fields, we can see that it sums to 1 or 100%. So everything has been assigned to a particular category. And the way to use this spreadsheet going forward is simply to just make sure you input all of your income sources. So let's say you have a little eBay store as well, where you made $50, you sold some stuff on eBay. That also gets attributed to your total income, and it gets, ratioed out for the needs, wants, and savings. But the more important thing is to keep track of all of your expenses. So if you went to Starbucks every day, for example, and you spent $5 on a coffee, right? You can imagine that maybe you do this every time you're on your way to work, so 5 days a week. So you did 5, 5, 5. You can see that your wants start creeping up on you. And this is the really important part. Well, I guess we need to categorize this first, right? But this is the really important part of a budget, so you can keep track of all these little tiny expenditures that you normally don't think about, but will add up over time. So hopefully this is helpful. Feel free to use it. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. That's going to do it for me. Make sure you hit the like button if this video was helpful, and subscribe if you want to see more content like this in the future. But that's all I've got for you today. Hope you enjoyed, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.